Yeah, the drinks might be strong, but the jokes are still weak. I promise I'll stop throwing out in the sea.
I'm thinking, how do I tell this story? Hey there, welcome to Adventure in Art. This is a continuation of my story. This is definitely for the diehards. If you're a diehard and you've been following along, you know what this is all about. At the end of this, if you stay till the end, it's going to be long. I'm not cutting out the pregnant pauses. I'm not going to do any editing. You're going to see messy me the whole way through. There's be no editing. If you stay till the end, there's going to be a giveaway, and it's really cool. It's really cool. I'm giving away 2 prizes to 2 different viewers. You got to watch the video to learn how you can win. I'll talk about that at the end, because I just don't want to waste a lot of time at the front, because people might watch this in perpetuity in the future, so you get it. But they're gifts from Wattencraft, one of my favorite companies. Do I have a bag? Yeah, right here. Like, it's not this. This isn't what we're giving away, but this is my favorite Wattencraft bag. I use it all the time. You see it on the channel. They reached out and they're like, "Do you want to give away something to your viewers?" So yeah. So we're gonna continue my story in this. I was really surprised, and I didn't think you guys would really like me telling my own personal story a few weeks ago, and I was really touched by all the comments and the enthusiasm for it, and so we're going to continue that. I'm not drinking beer this time. I'm drinking tea. I've just returned from Orlando, where I photographed the Unplugged stage at the Warped Tour. Yes. And I'm a little road weary. I just finished editing all the photos and some video for it, and I'm a little under the weather. I didn't sleep much, and I've been going nonstop for almost a week, and now this is my first day to kind of sit down and do a video for you guys, and I'm a little under the weather. So this is gonna be a long video. It's gonna be a long video. I'm gonna work my way through it. I wrote a bunch of notes here on my pad in case I get off track, because there's some certain beats I want to cover. And if we're going to do this, we're going to do it, right? So get some popcorn, put it on pause if you want, go get some popcorn, get a beer, get a beverage. We got some stuff to discuss. And you guys, this video is ultimately about synchronicity. It's about reading the signs. It's about listening really intently and noticing. Sometimes you don't notice in the moment, you know? Sometimes you only notice years later, the next day, the next year. But it's important to notice. The signs are all around us, and I guess I'm in a little bit of a raw state. Like, not in a bad way or anything, but I'm a little ragged because I'm exhausted. But I'm noticing. I call it a wheel. Time is like a wheel. Time is a flat circle. That was the best show ever. But time to me is like a wheel, and it keeps rolling, and things come back around. Things replay. Things happen again. These are synchronicities. These are... That's how I view it in my head. And a lot of things in the last month have come back around. Things from early in my life. Things from that first year of me living in LA, which is what this video is going to be about. And I'm just like, it's made me a little raw. It's made me a little bit like, it freaks me out a little bit. It freaks me out a little bit. There's a weird synchronicity just with me getting asked to go photograph the Warped Tour. The Warped Tour. Never thought I'd ever go to the Warped Tour. It was actually... there wasn't a Warped Tour for a good number of years, but in the future, I'm going to get to why that's important and why that's significant. It's weird. And there's a real direct line of how I ended up there. It had to do with actually going to Telluride and shooting that festival last summer. But guys, in your own life, I know you see these connections. We all have them. Like, I'm not special or anything different or remarkable. It's just that I just choose to notice. I'm choosing to notice these repetitions in my life. It's like a little bell that rings in the background and you can barely hear it, but you're like, oh yeah, we're on the right path. Like we're moving through this, and certain signs keep showing up, things repeat. What does it all mean? I don't know, but I notice it. I notice it. So let's get into the story. When I left you, I had been working at a landscaping company and shoveling mud, and with some racist assholes and some other people. And I saved up all my money. I sold my car. I sold most things that I owned. The other part of the story is I moved to, I had a girlfriend at the time and we lived together, and then she opted, she's like, oh, you're moving to LA? I just kind of sprung that on her, and she's like, well, I guess I'm going with you. So she had this little Honda Civic. I sold my car. We drove her Honda Civic. We left we left Anchorage, Alaska in middle of October, 99. Kind of just ahead of the snow. And, I had, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 to my name. Everything that I owned, most everything I owned, we just stuffed in the back of this little Honda. And we set out trying to get down the Alcan before the snow really hit it and before the roads got dangerous. And, stopped in Montana to see some friends. Actually stopped here in Santa Clarita. I think, I can't remember now. I think it was the night before Halloween, and stayed at this little motel here in Santa Clarita, which is where I live now, 26 years later. And then the next morning, got up early. It was a Sunday morning. I remember that. And driving into Hollywood on the 101 freeway. I remember it. I know the off-ramp. We got off on the Sunset off-ramp off the 101 because I just thought, okay, well, that's Hollywood, man. Got to find a place to live. And we just got off. There wasn't much traffic yet. Just driving around like, okay, now what? Now what? And then I remember like parking and walking up and down Hollywood Boulevard, and like there's all these apartment buildings, and I was like, I had this little notepad and I was just like writing down the numbers that were on the front of these apartment buildings for like the manager, because I like got to find a place to live. And I didn't have a cell phone. And then I went to like a cell phone store. It's 99 cell phones. There's no smartphones, and cell phones were not as, they're more common here than they were in Alaska, but it's not like, you still had landlines and stuff. Anyways, I couldn't get a cell phone because I didn't have an address. I was like, oh, I should have thought this through. And so then I went and I just got like a roll of quarters. And I remember there's like this little movie studio. It's at Gower Gulch, which is right off Sunset and Gower. It's right in Hollywood. And there's like a Denny's there and a payphone. And I remember just pulling up there and like had all these numbers that I'd written down from walking up and down Hollywood Boulevard. And I started calling. And within like a half a dozen of not getting an answer or leaving messages. And I'm like, this ain't gonna work. This ain't gonna work. How are they gonna get back to me? And no one's even answering anyways. And like, I'm not gonna find I need a phone. I don't know, man. I'm 26. I didn't think it through very much. So drove down Sunset Boulevard. I remember there was a Radio Shack, and I went in there, and they agreed to sell me a cell phone and give me like a Verizon plan. So then I had a phone. I got a phone, and I used my former address in Alaska, which I had family members that lived there, so it was fine. And then started looking. I had a laptop. I had just gotten a laptop like 6 months before, first computer I ever had. So then we posted up and I started searching online for apartments, and within a few days got a meeting and went over and anyways got an apartment basically, but couldn't move in for like a week. And then we just had like a week to kill or something. I think we went and stayed in a motel down by the beach in Redondo or something. And I think we drove over to Nevada because my girlfriend had an aunt over there, and we just like hung out over there for a couple of days. And then we came back when the apartment was ready to move into, and it was it was Hollywood Boulevard in Wilcox, if you know where that's at. I actually went to that building. I did a walk around video in Hollywood last year, and I walked by that building. It's changed a lot. They've cleaned it up a lot. The the neighborhood was pretty sketchy when we moved in there. It was like crack alley, man. I mean, it was sketchy. It was way not nearly as gentrified as it is now. So I had an apartment, had rent to pay. It was $700 a month. I don't know what those apartments are now. They're tiny 1-bedroom apartments. I bet you they're over $2,000 now. Everything is just like skyrocketed. And now here's the part of the story that I didn't get into before, but like this was my plan for getting a job. I needed a job. In the last part of the story, by the way, I'll put the links below for the other parts of the story. There's 2 videos that precede this kind of, and I'll put those in the description. I should have said that at the beginning. But the part that's important is the previous winter I had worked at this blues bar. Well, there was this guy that started coming into this blues bar that right away all the musicians wanted to be his friend, and he became very popular, and he was a drummer, and he's from LA, and he had been in some pretty big bands. Now, I didn't really pay attention to this very much. He was just Bill Bateman, and he was a cool dude, and him and I became friends. Well, he had been in this band called the Blasters, which was like a rockabilly band in the early 80s. I didn't know it at the time, but Bill, like the Blasters had done like one of my favorite songs. I'm such a movie buff, and I love soundtracks, and I would buy soundtracks to movies I love. Well, one movie that I loved, still love, it's one of my favorite movies, is From Dusk Till Dawn, and written by Quentin Tarantino, directed by Robert Rodriguez. One of the first movies starring George Clooney and starring Quentin, and they're these bank robbers that stumble into a den of vampires. It's like a genre mashup. It's freaking awesome. Salma Hayek. There's a scene, the very first scene, where they're robbing a convenience store, and they walk out of the convenience store, and it blows up behind them, and they get in this car and they speed away, and this song starts playing, Dark Night, and it's like the coolest movie moment ever. It's an amazing song. Well, Bill, that's the Blasters, and Bill played on that song, which is amazing. I met him in Anchorage. Bill and I had become friends, and we'd go to the movies during the day sometimes because we both worked nights in this bar. He worked coming in, drumming, playing with all the bands. When I decided to move to LA, I knew Bill was from here. I'm like, hey, dude, maybe I should just get a survival job like in a bar like I am here. I mean, there's a lot of bars in LA. Like, can you recommend something? He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, the House of Blues, it's the place. I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty big. He's like, yeah, I played the first, one of his other bands, he had this other band, the Red Devils, and they had played the very first gig ever at the House of Blues when it opened, opening for Aerosmith. Bill knew everybody. Like, he knew everybody. Clapton, ZZ Top, all these old famous musicians, he knows them or knew them. So he's like, go to House of Blues, ask for Kevin. I can't believe I just remembered that dude's name. He goes, ask for Kevin, tell him you're my friend, he'll give you a job. I'm like, sick. So, boom, I'm set. I got a place to live. Very next thing, get a job, Staley. So I go in, I just went down there. I walked in. I'm like, hey, I don't remember this dude's last name. I had it written down back in the day. I'm like, I'm looking for Kevin. They're like, oh, he works in the corporate office. I'm like, okay, here's the number. So I called over there. I get some assistant. Come to find out, Kevin is actually the guy that books all the bands at the House of Blues. He's not giving me a job. He could care less about me. I got to his assistant. I never ever got this dude on the phone. Like, he did not care. And so I tried for a couple days. He never called me back. I'm like, I don't need a referral. I get a job on my own. So I just went back down there. I'm like, hey, can I just have a job application and maybe get a job here? And I was just being friendly Ben, and I talked to some lady, and then she's like, oh, this is Barney. He's the head of security. And like within an hour, I had a job. So I'm like, sorted. And I think I was hired as a security guard, going to work like 35, 40 hours a week, 5 days a week. I'm like, sick. But it paid like, this is 99. This is late fall of 99, November. I think I made like 11 or 12 bucks an hour. It was nothing. It was like barely enough to pay my rent. And I knew, excuse me, I knew right away I was going to need another job. I just wanted to like get solid, get sorted to where the bills are taken care of. Maybe I'm working nights, and then during the day I can start to network. I can start to learn. Maybe I want to do some filmmaking. Maybe I want to be in front of the camera. Like, I didn't know. I wanted to make movies. However, in whatever capacity that I could, knowing F all. I didn't know nothing. So I'm just like, I've got to get solvent. I've got to get to where I have enough income coming in where I can survive. So I get a job at the House of Blues. Right away, I'm like, this isn't quite enough. I need to be doing something else like a couple days a week during the day. There was a sporting goods store called Sports Chalet down on La Cienega and Beverly at this mall. And so I went in there and actually got a job right away because I worked in sporting goods stores and I'd managed a snowboard shop. And they hired me right away to work in the camping department and in the snowboard department. So now it was like 2 days a week. It was perfect. And I would be done by 5, and then I could go work at House of Blues a couple of days a week. So I'm like, I'm working a lot, but I can survive. And that was my first year in LA. Like, that's what I did for pretty much a solid year. And I'm going to break this down. Let me see if did I skip anything here? This House of Blues connection, I'm going to tell you about that first, and then I'm going to tell you about the Sports Chalet thing, because both of these were monumental and both of them still echo today. It's crazy. And it's like the House of Blues thing. I was a security guard. My first show was the Thanksgiving weekend, and it was the Roots. And so I'd never worked there before, and I do a day of training. Well, I'll tell you this, because I'm just going to drop a lot of names and tell you about my life and what I like. One of my favorite bands in high school in my early 20s, still to this day, is Faith No More. I love Faith No More, especially their first couple albums with Mike Patton. I mean, they're amazing. So I'm at House of Blues for my day of training, and we're like we got on a lunch break or something, and I get in the elevator, and Mike Patton's in the elevator. He's the singer of Faith No More. I'm like, whoa, dude, whoa. I'm in the elevator with one of my favorite singers of a band ever. And I'm like, this is wild. And he was playing that night at House of Blues with his other band. He's got this band that he had since before Faith No More called Mr. Bungle. They're a weird band. Not super accessible, not my favorite, but he's so talented. He's had like 10 different bands. So anyways, they did invite me because it wasn't sold out because they're a weird band. And they're like, yeah, it's your first night. You should just come to the show tonight. They let me into the VIP area. And that night I saw Mike Patton and Mr. Bungle at House of Blues. And then like the next couple of days I started working there. It was Thanksgiving weekend. And it was the Roots. And they would do like 2 shows a night all weekend, like 2 days in a row or something. And it was just packed and crazy. So I was security guard, and 5 days a week, 5 nights a week, I'd show up for work around 6 or 7, depending on when the show started. We'd have a big group meeting. Here's what's going on tonight. And then whoever was there was some guy that was like the supervisor, and he would just assign everybody stations wherever they needed to work and work it all out. And then we would cover the show. And then when the show was done and all the people were gone, usually around midnight or sometimes 1 or 2 in the morning, if it was a late show, we go home. And it was crazy. It was crazy. Right away, I was pretty good with people and friendly. One of the first things that happened, like the very first month I worked there, I was just a regular security guard. I got promoted quickly. We'll get to that. Macy Gray had just broken, and she was like, had just come out on the scene, and Macy Gray was doing a show there, and Elton John wanted to see her. And so he came in, he had arranged to come in, and he sat up on the balcony and had dinner and watched the show. And then me and another guy, Malik, had to be personal security for him and keep everybody off the balcony just so nobody would bother Elton John. I mean, it was really low key. Nobody did anyways. And I don't think most people even knew he was there because it's kind of dark. But he sat up there and I stood like 3 feet from Elton John all night while he watched Macy Gray. I was a massive Elton John fan. He was like, I actually think Elton John's like the greatest king of rock and roll. Like the albums he did in the early 70s with Bernie Taupin, who wrote all those songs, and Elton just sat there and pounded them out on his piano. And I think it's untouchable. To me, it's untouchable. Okay, Beatles, Stones, Led Zeppelin, whatever, all that stuff, amazing, right? Elton, to me, is the king. Elton's the king. Yeah, stood 3 feet from Elton John. And then a few weeks later, Stevie Nicks was going on her first tour in a long time. And so she did like 5 nights in a row, just kind of warming up for her tour. And she was staying at the hotel across the street. She didn't want anyone to see her doing her sound check and rehearsals. And she didn't want any staff at the House of Blues to see her. And me and Malik, same, we were tasked with guarding her sound check and her rehearsal. So she'd come in before anybody really got to the club. We had to come in first, and we had to lock down the whole club. No employees could come in, only Malik and I. And Stevie Nicks would come over in a bathrobe and slippers, hair in curlers, and she would rehearse for an hour with her band, working out the shows. And then she'd quietly leave, get back in a limo, go back to the hotel across the street, and a couple hours later come over and do the show. And then we'd be regular security for that. So I got like a private Stevie Nicks show 5 nights in a row. Watched her do Landslide. That was her encore song. It was incredible. It was incredible. I'm like, pinch me, pinch me. Oh, excuse me, down the wrong tube. You guys know, I mean, I've been making these forays into music, but in LA, I started with music and working in a music venue, and now I'm trying to work into photographing musical artists, and just did the Warped Tour. You're gonna hear about that in a future video. I'm gonna get into it. I am gonna get into it. Not yet though. And then quickly I would say within a month or 2 months maybe, they were like, "You're pretty good with people, Ben. We're going to put you in the foundation room." The foundation room was the upstairs VIP room. You had to be a member or a celebrity to get up there. And they had a downstairs doorman who had a list of names if you were allowed to come in. And then they would get in the elevator and go up. And then I would be inside at the door upstairs to double check if they could come in or not. They'd have a special wristband on. And then I had to wear a suit, and now I worked indoors and I just worked by that door. And it was fancy LA people every night and a lot of celebrities and stuff. I got to know a lot of people that I really admired would come in a lot. I saw a lot of like some of the most famous people, I met Bruce Willis and this is Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston era. They would come in. Huge celebrities, David Hasselhoff had some really nutty experiences. Got to know Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, who was a friend of Bill Bateman, the guy that had suggested I work at House of Blues. And so we had that connection, and I told him that. I'm like, oh, he says, "Oh yeah, Bateman." And so him and I became friends. He introduced me to George Thorogood at one point as his good friend. I got to know Billy Duffy from The Cult. The Cult is another one of my favorite bands from the 80s. And Billy would come in all the time, and he would just stand by the door and we would talk for a long time. I met Lawrence Fishburne because this was like the same year, or this is less than a year after The Matrix came out. Keanu Reeves came in a couple times. Lawrence Fishburne came in one time, and I had long conversations with him. It was so cool. I was from Alaska. I grew up in a cabin. I'd never been around celebrities before, and now I'm seeing these people every night. It was pretty awesome. I'm gonna tiptoe around this story, but I'm gonna tell it because it came back around a couple weeks ago. It blew me away. I'm not going to say names, but a couple months into working in the foundation room upstairs and getting to know people, I got to know this young actress who had just done a movie with Keanu Reeves, actually. And so she was kind of hot to trot. And she would come in a lot with this pop star from the 80s, someone who was a big pop star in the late 80s, maybe early 90s even. Maybe, or I don't know what era yeah, somewhere around that time. Amazing vocalist, amazing singer, was very famous for a good number of years, and then kind of got into acting or something. I think these two had met working on a movie. Anyways, they would come in a lot, and I got to know them on a first name basis, and we were like friendly. And then I'm thinking, how do I tell this story? And then this actress, one day she comes in, she goes, hey, I'm having a birthday party for pop singer. I'm not saying names here. Would you want to come? And I'm like, yeah, amazing. She said, yeah, it's going to be this sushi place in Beverly Hills. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I go home, tell my girlfriend, hey, I got invited to so-and-so's birthday party. You want to come? Yeah, this is cool. We're from Alaska. We show up down there. We show up early. It's at this swanky sushi place. Who's in the lobby waiting ahead of us? Downtown Julie Brown. Remember her? MTV in the heyday. It was that kind of crowd. And then everybody shows up, and we're in this dark room, this long room, and we're having sushi and all this stuff. And I got up to go to the bathroom, and this actress who had invited me meets me there. And she's like, Ben, what the heck? You brought your girlfriend. And anyways, I learned pretty quickly that I shouldn't have done that. They were interested in other things at that time. That was so funny. I'm like, oh, I guess read the room, Ben, read the room. Well, where this becomes really funny, a couple weeks ago, a friend of mine, Mike, has this podcast. I was on it. I'm not going to even call out the name of the podcast, but it's a filmmaking podcast. I was on it early on. I think I'm not cool enough to be on it now because he's having like really big famous filmmakers on it now, but I was on it early on talking about some of my stuff. Well, he did a live taping of his podcast a couple weeks ago at the RE headquarters in LA here. Zeiss Lenses. And they have a little headquarters, and it's cool. It's a showroom. So I went down there and I watched this taping of this podcast with a really famous cinematographer. And afterwards, I'm standing around talking to my buddy Mike and some other people, and I'd seen this woman who looked so familiar to me. And I was like, I know her from somewhere. And then I heard her introduce herself to someone else. They're standing like right next to me. And I'm like, this is that actress. Freaking 25 years later. What? So then when her little interaction with this other person was done and she was walking by, I'm like, hey, do you remember? And she's like, no way. And so we had this weird reunion. And we were like catching up and like this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I had actually done a job, 15 years ago or more, 16, 17 years ago now, that I shot it was like a talk show pilot. And this pop star that had been this actress's friend was on this pilot. And so I actually like sat in a room like 3 feet from her while she played piano and sang this beautiful song. It was weird. And then I was like, hey, remember me? And it was like, oh yeah. These people have come back. I never thought I'd see this actress again. Crazy. All right. This is getting really long, you guys. I'd ask you if you minded, but you can't answer. Maybe I can't fit this whole year into one video, or I don't know if we want an hour-long video. Do we want an hour-long video? I don't think so. I'm also working weekends at the sports chalet, and I'm working inside. I don't like it, and there's all these people in Beverly Hills, and they're like, I'm from Alaska, where people are used to the weather, and people would come in and just ask really dumb questions about what clothes to wear and snow sports and things, and I would a lot of times make fun of them. I saw a lot of celebrities in there. Steve Martin. I helped Cameron Diaz one time, and that was cool. I hung out with Cameron Diaz for like an hour and sold her a whole bunch of like snowboard outfit and stuff. She changed her pants right in front of me. She didn't even go in the dressing room. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not to drop names, but that was interesting. And then this sporting goods store had on the outside of the mall, which was like 3 stories high, or a concrete wall, they had a climbing wall. And now you guys know I was at that time a really avid climber, and especially in Alaska. That's why I got into videoing things was because of my climbing. Well, I was really lobbying for the job of like running this outside climbing wall. It was only open on the weekends. And so they gave me that job finally. So that was all I did. I didn't have to work inside anymore. I'd just show up on a Saturday and Sunday morning and I would hang the ropes outside and then people would come and then I would belay them up and down this wall. And so then I got to be friends with this crew of people who would come to the climbing wall every Saturday. Now, and Sunday. And most of these people, I quickly learned, worked in the film industry. Now, a couple of these relationships became very, very, very fateful. And a couple of people that I met through this are still really close to me in my life. There's a really good chance. I mean, I probably would have always ended up here and always ended up working in TV, I think. But I'm just gonna tease this for the next episode because it's like I'm realizing this is taking a long time. There's a lot to discuss. I didn't want this to be more than 30 minutes. And I have a giveaway to do. So I think we'll leave it at that. And we'll get into climbing and the second half of the first year. Keep in mind, I'm just getting my feet wet. I'm just beginning to meet people. I haven't picked up a camera yet. I haven't been in front of a camera yet. There are some crazy things coming at the end of the first year. So let's just leave it at that and let's get into the giveaway. Oh no, I put it on my phone. Sorry to do that. I thought I could get through the whole first year in a half hour and I just can't. I'm long-winded. Okay. So this is from Wattencraft. We're giving away 2 sets of our camera-themed 2025 Wattencraft holiday gifts, created to share the spirit of adventure and appreciation this festive season. These sets of gifts are freaking awesome, by the way. Whoever wins these, dope. Here's what you got to do. You have to follow Wattencraft on Instagram, and you have to subscribe to the Wattencraft newsletter. That's their requirements. I'm going to put those links in the description, so you need to do that. They will check when I send them the names and the info of the people. I'm not going to check. How could I? Here's how you win. I want you to leave a comment and I want you to answer this question. And I'm going to pick 2 winners. 2. Dose. Okay? There's 2 chances. And what's the criteria? I want to be moved. I want to be amused. I want to be intrigued. I don't know. Be clever. You don't have to write. Don't write a freaking paragraph. I don't want to have to read like 100 paragraphs. I mean, I will, but be short and sweet. Answer this. What's one moment where life lined up so perfectly it felt impossible to ignore? What's one moment where life lined up so perfectly it felt impossible to ignore? If you're watching this video after, mid-December, actually, I've got to let Wattencraft know by the 6th of December. So I'm going to pick a winner by December 4th. So if you're watching this after December 4th, 2025, the contest is over. Sorry. But if you're a diehard and you made it this far, come on, answer this question. What's one moment where life lined up so perfectly it felt impossible to ignore? There's a lot of synchronicities with stuff I've mentioned, and I kind of set it up. I'm going to definitely get into that a little deeper on the next chapter. I guess we're doing multiple chapters of this. The next one will be sometime in December or something. Thanks for watching my goofy ass little channel. The wheel's turning, folks. The wheel is turning. Pay attention. Look. Listen. Feel. Believe in yourself. Staley out.